This morning. Remember, we are live on YouTube at our page, Church of Uganda Family TV, but also on our other social media platforms at Church of Uganda Family TV on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and all the other platforms. Now, I would like to remind you that Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe is your place to be in case you need comfort and luxury at its best. Remember to visit them. They have accommodation. You can go there and sleep in with your friends and family. They have a swimming pool. They have some facilities that, like the health club, including the gym and the spa, where you can go and enjoy a little pampering on yourself. Now, of course, they have a menu with different dishes, including African, Ugandan dishes, and continental dishes, as well as different cuisines that you can go and try out. They host parties, they host conferences, they host all kinds of events. You can reach out to them on the numbers on your screen and then make a reservation. That is Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe, located in the heart of Entebbe. Today, we are here to discuss some of the issues that we do discuss normally. Here we discuss current affairs, politics, economics, but also not forgetting educational and inspirational, but also justice and constitutional affairs. And under that, we have the human rights. Of course, we know that human rights are important because you, as a human, need your rights and they need to be supported, protected, but you have to be guided through them. And this is why we bring in different guests to help with the guidance and understanding of some of these human rights. Today, I have in studio Mr. Atukunda, Honorary Secretary, Uganda Law Society, and he's going to be telling us more about human rights, but also Uganda Law Society as an entity. You're very welcome to studio this morning.
Thank you, Carol. I'm glad to be here. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Good morning, our viewers. Good morning, members of Uganda Law Society. I bring you greetings from Uganda Law Society. And my name for emphasis is Atukunda. I'm the Honorary Secretary of the Uganda Law Society, which is led by our current president, Council Bernard Owundo.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here. Maybe since this is Family TV,
yes, it is,
which I'm glad to always associate with. I'm also the Deputy Chancellor of North Kivu Diocese.
Oh.
And I'm always happy because you've always been part
family.
of our activities. So I'm glad to be here for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Senior 6 students, as well as Senior 4, are still doing their exams, and many of those would like to become lawyers in future and join the Uganda Law Society. Any advice for them? Just a bit of advice for...
Yeah, I remember when I first entered law school, my lecturer asked me whether I was ready to be a lawyer.
Oh.
Because by then, in 2002, 2002, not so many people from my village or district were lawyers.
Okay.
So to me, if you want to do law, just know why you would want to be a lawyer. Some people do law because they are looking for money. Others, it's because they are passionate about serving communities. Others, of recent, we've seen instances where people think that being a lawyer enables them to make deals.
Oh.
So before you make a decision to become an advocate, first know why. When you have answered the why, the how is always easy.
Oh,
that's the advice I can give them. Know why you want to be a lawyer.
Very interesting. I have learned that myself. In case I want to do something, I must know why before the how, and then the how will become very easy. Okay, let's look at the mandate of the Uganda Law Society. It's been in action for some years now, and of course, you have, how far with the mandate? I'm sure you have taken some steps towards achieving the mandate of the society. But tell us about the mandate and the achievements.
Thank you, Carol. Uganda Law Society is Uganda's only bar association.
Okay. I'm
saying only bar association because in some countries, like Canada, you find there are numerous bar associations. But in Uganda, Uganda Law Society is the only bar association that every practicing advocate is supposed to belong to as a matter of law. The society is established by an act of parliament. It is the Uganda Law Society Act of 1956, It is CAP 276, laws of Uganda. Looking at the year it was established in 1956, there we had an advocate who was a Ugandan then, but as I speak today, we have over 5,000 registered advocates as our members.
Wow.
And I'm glad to mention that in the recent past, we have had advocates spreading all over Uganda. They are no longer based only in Kampala. If you visit Kabare, Kisoro, Kaveramaido, Arua, you'll find advocates practicing from those districts. And as Uganda said, we are proud of that because it means that services have been brought closer to the people. Now, briefly about our mandate, they are listed under the Uganda Society Act, but mainly the society was established to facilitate professional development and education of lawyers in Uganda. It is supposed to protect the public in matters of law. It is supposed to advise the government and the judiciary in matters of rule of law and practice. Then also it is supposed to support the welfare of its membership. And of recent we are emphasizing members first because we are now big in number. You find that some of the challenges faced by the public, like human rights, are also faced by our members who practice law. Because most often you will hear an advocate has been arrested because he's representing a certain client. An advocate has been persecuted because she participated in a transaction which most likely went bad, not necessarily because the advocate did wrong, but because it has gone bad. So we are emphasizing also attention to our membership issues. But also that's not to mention that sometimes some of our members have also been caught on the other side of the law. So I have to put that disclaimer. But by and large, that's our mandate. And from the time of inception in 1956 up to date, we have been trying to make sure that we fulfill our mandate. That's why we usually hold a rule of law week to emphasize our mandate relating to protection of the members of the public in matters of rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're talking about human rights now. Let's get into the topic of the day, which is advancing the fight against human rights. I'd like to start with a story that ran in the news last week, where the High Court judge of Fort Portal district came out complaining that the advocates in that area have taken bribery to the next level. Like they are accepting bribes and they're not doing things that represent lawyers, that represent the integrity of lawyers. And he was calling upon, first of all, calling upon the lawyers to stop taking in bribes, but also trying to make an alarm for help. What do you have to say about this matter? Why is it that some of these lawyers, like you said, they participate in some shady deals, and in the end, people's human rights are violated? What do you have to say about that?
Unfortunately, some incidences are usually unavoidable because lawyers are also part of the public. So those who are found on the wrong side of the law are also like other members of the public. This is not exclusive to Uganda Law Society. Well, relating to that incident, I wouldn't want to go too much into it, but all I can say is that corruption, abuse of office, bribery, and crimes of that nature have been rampant in the country. They happen every other day. So it wouldn't be shocking if the justice of the High Court comes out and makes such a statement. But usually, as Uganda said, when instead of making such a statement to the public, we usually encourage whoever faces an abuse from our membership to report us.
Okay.
We even have the law council. So if any of our members is involved in any abuse of human rights, we can be reached. Our offices are in Ntinda, Buye. We are soon shifting to Kororo.
Okay.
We are almost finishing by Yale's house. So
Okay.
we shall be easily accessed by the public when we shift to Kororo. So we can be reached, and we can always provide support
Okay.
to any member of the public whose rights have been abused. And even this also applies to the judicial officers. If there is a member of Uganda society who is caught on the wrong side of the law, better that member is reported. So I wouldn't want to go into details because I do not have full facts, and I don't think the matter has been officially brought to us.
Okay.
But rating it human rights, for emphasis, I would say that whenever a member of Uganda Law Society is involved in any kind of human rights abuse, let the public not hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay.
We shall support the member of the public and also bring our members to order, because that is also our mandate. And in case one is not comfortable coming to us, then the matter can be taken to law council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So what are human rights? Let's start from the beginning. What are human rights all about? Or maybe you can give a general introduction on human rights.
Human rights is usually a very wide topic, but all I can say is that human rights are rights which are inherent to every human being.
Okay.
This is irrespective of race, color, origin, sex, etc. So human rights are rights you're born with by the mere fact that you are a human being. These rights are not guaranteed by the law or the constitution or by politicians. These are rights which you enjoy as a human being.
Okay.
I will give you an example of the biblical story. When God put Adam in the Garden of Eden and gave him Eve, when Adam sinned, God came to the Garden of Eden and called Adam and asked him where he was.
Yeah.
Adam answered that, I am naked.
Yeah.
Then he asked him why he had eaten the fruit. Adam answered,
The wife
The
gave
wife.
it to me.
okay, to us or to me as a lawyer,
Yes.
that is fair hearing.
Judgment. Oh.
Fair hearing.
Hearing.
If probably Adam had answered differently, or maybe had asked for forgiveness, God would have forgiven him.
Okay.
But the story has two sides. One, the rights given to Adam, then the obligations put on him.
Okay.
He had a right to live in the Garden of Eden. He also had an obligation
Not to
not to eat
eat the
the forbidden fruits. So human rights is about your rights, but also your obligations as a human being.
Okay.
Every responsible human being or citizen of a country must have rights and also obligations. And in Uganda, the Constitution of Uganda
Yes.
is the supreme law. Under Chapter 4, it provides for rights, freedoms, and obligations bestowed upon every individual citizen. So, in a nutshell, human rights provide for protection of a human being by the virtue of that human being being human.
Okay.
That's why we call them human rights. And they are inherent. Thank you.
Okay, so what are some of the human rights that maybe a Ugandan out there can know? Because some rights are there, but the challenge is that Ugandans don't know that the rights are there. So what are some of those rights?
Before I name the rights, I would want to use this Latin maxim, which I think to me puts across the obligation of every Ugandan citizen.
Okay.
Ignorantia juris neminem excused. This simply means that ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Okay.
I've sometimes heard you journalists say that ignorance is bliss.
Yep.
Yeah.
I say
that
that
sometimes
a
when you
lot.
don't know something, like you go to a doctor, you have cancer, you don't know,
Yeah.
you're happy. You don't know that you're dying.
Yeah.
But in law, in matters of law, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Okay.
So in Uganda, we have the Constitution. The Constitution under Chapter 4 provides for the rights of every Ugandan.
Okay.
The expectation is that every Ugandan should be knowing his or her rights. Just imagine a situation where you don't know that you have a right, for example, to go to church. You would probably fear to go there because you don't know.
Okay.
I saw a story on social media, I think it was this week, where a lady in Naguru Police Barracks
Yes.
was complaining because she had been evicted. Though she was citing the wrong law, but at least I was glad she knew rights.
Okay.
So in Uganda, checking the Constitution, Articles 21 to 50, what we usually call the Bill of Rights. There are numerous rights provided thereunder. For example, we have equality and freedom from discrimination,
Okay.
protection of personal liberty, respect for human dignity, protection from slavery and forced labor, servitude, protection from deprivation of property, right to privacy, freedom of conscience, expression,
Okay.
freedom of movement, freedom to practice religion, freedom of assembly and association. We have freedom, we have a right to a fair hearing, we have right to education, rights of children, rights of people with disabilities, right to practice culture, we have civic rights, then right to clean and healthy environment, then right to access information, then also we have limitation of the rights that is provided for under Article 43, that even though you enjoy these rights under the Constitution, under certain circumstances, these rights may be taken away from you.
Okay.
For example, we saw it during COVID
Yeah.
lockdown. We are instructed
Yeah.
to stay home. Ordinarily, that's not how it should be, because you have freedom of movement. But because this was a public health matter, we are all instructed to stay home.
Yeah.
So even though we have those rights, there are limitations to the rights. However, under Article 44, there are those rights which are non-derogable,
Yes.
that you cannot limit those rights. For example, freedom from torture, cruel or inhuman and degrading punishment. Though that it's non-derogable. Freedom from slavery and servitude,
Okay.
it's non-derogable. Right to a fair hearing. If you're taken before a court of law or before a tribunal, you must be afforded a right to a fair hearing,
Okay.
where you must have a right to access your lawyer, you must be heard, you have a right to apply for bail, then also the right to order of habeas corpus. These are non-derogable rights that even in a situation of emergency, for example, you cannot say, because this COVID lockdown, we shall not hear you. No, the Constitution limits the powers of the authorities.
Okay.
So for emphasis, the authorities are obligated and mandated to protect the rights of all Ugandans.
Okay. Thank you.
So you may ask me, okay, it's the government maybe that is supposed to protect, but also as a Ugandan, you have a right to protect your rights.
Okay.
And that is under Article 50 of the Constitution of Uganda, that if you feel your rights have been violated, okay, and you have evidence that your rights have been violated, you have a right to access a court of law and seek justice. And the courts have mandate to even offer you compensation.
Okay.
And in addition to courts, we have Uganda Human Rights Commission. I think you've had cases where compensation has been ordered against those entities involved in human rights abuse. Of recent, the Attorney General of Uganda has been emphasizing that if an individual security officer or organ is involved in abuse of human rights over Ugandan, that individual security officer or organ will be personally liable. And the Attorney General has been emphatic on this, that he will not waste time defending a party that has abused rights. So that's what I could say about the human rights as provided for under the Constitution of Uganda.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned some of these rights are non-derogable, and one of them is freedom from torture. However, we have seen cases, for example, in the recent elections where there were some rowdy groups of people and people made noise and stuff, and they broke stuff around the city. But some of these were captured and taken in behind bars without arrest warrants, without explanations, and some of them disappeared from their families. Some political parties started reporting their members missing. They started fighting for them to get them out of prisons and stuff. Some of them came out of prisons with torture marks. And my question would be, isn't there a better way for authorities to handle, since this is freedom from torture and it's non-derogable, isn't there a better way for authorities to handle some of these political cases without torturing them, without breaking this human right or violating it?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to use the word unfortunately, abuse of human rights has been rampant, not just in Uganda, but in Africa. Some of us believe that maybe the concept of democracy brought in by the Western world is not the concept well perceived by us Africans or Ugandans, the way we understand human rights. Because traditionally, Africans believed in community or communal human rights. Okay? Now, the Western world brought in the idea of democracy, that you must have an elected government, that you have individual rights, you as a person. Now, to me, it appears that sometimes maybe some of us have failed to appreciate the modern world, because I just imagine that today I am the DPC, Kampala, and I'm torturing a human being to death. Sure, it's cruel. It's despicable. How do you do that? So it has happened. It is always happening. And this is why we have this rule of law week. We intentionally want to awaken Ugandans that you have rights under the Constitution. You have the judiciary, which picks salaries from the consolidated fund.
Okay.
We have Uganda Human Rights Commission. It is your right to access these entities whenever your rights have been abused. And as I earlier told you, the government has been emphatic, the Attorney General, that whenever an individual security officer or organ is involved, this individual should be held personally accountable. There is a case it's the case of Robert Chagulanyi trading as Bobby Wine versus Kampala Metropolitan Police and others. It's a miscellaneous cause number 313 of 2017. And this was also stated that whenever you're tortured as a Ugandan, whenever your rights are abused, you should be able to access courts of law or Uganda Human Rights Commission. But also the politicians have political responsibility towards the people they lead. Because if you're a member of parliament, if you're a political leader and your people's rights are being abused, what do you do about it? So people should hold their leaders also accountable. If you torture me, come 2026, and I'm going to a ballot box, why should I vote you in power again?
Exactly.
So, also, besides the rule of law, we have rule by law, where political institutions, in most cases, want to abuse people's rights using the law. When I was at university, my former lecturer, Muvunyi Edgar Tavaro, told me about the Karamoja Act, that it was a law enacted, and that law provided that whenever you see two Karimajong speaking, they should be arrested because probably they are planning cattle rustling. So sometimes politicians use the law to abuse human rights. Okay. We have seen the Public Order and Management Act.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or let me say fortunately, these laws usually come to bite the politicians who enact them. So, political leaders, civic leaders, you, the fourth estate, as lawyers, it is our obligation to protect the vulnerable members of our society, the public, against these abuses. And also the public, whenever you see anybody violating the rights of a Ugandan, take action. Okay. Report. Even you have powers to arrest such an individual.
Wow. Okay.
So, unfortunately, it happens. It has been happening. Uganda Law Society, periodically, will produce a rule of law report. Whenever we are publicizing the report, we invite all stakeholders, including the army, the police, the government officials, and we have been loud and clear. Everyone must stop abuse of human rights.
Okay.
For us, we look at just torture, okay, of politicians. If you come from where I come from Rukunjiri. I usually pass by Ruera when going home. Yeah. The wetland there has been degraded. Of recent, we had River Katonga flooding.
Yes.
Now, people who are selling roasted chicken, Muchoma and Gonja, in that place, it's called Lukaya. Now, during that time, UNRWA had to close the road to repair the bridge which had been washed away. What happened to their businesses? So if you sit there as a Ugandan and you see the environment being degraded and you think it doesn't affect you, those are the consequences. So whenever you see anybody violating human rights, it is your obligation to take action. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think we are going to go for a short break, and we will continue with our show. We still have a number of issues to discuss, including the Rule of Law Week, but also what can somebody do in case their rights are violated? What is the first step you can take? We have very many incidences where human rights are being abused. Some of them becoming slaves in other countries as labor workers, but the government is doing little to nothing in consideration of these girls who go there. We have people sexually being abused sexually, and then we have teenage pregnancies going rampant. We have very many issues, and we just want to look at the fact that if you are faced with a challenge of abuse of your human rights, what exactly are you supposed to be doing? But that will be after the short break. We are powered by Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives. This is Church of Uganda Family TV, enriching lives. Issues at hand, powered by
Protea Hotel by Marriott Entebbe. Comfort and luxury at its best.
You're welcome back to Issues at Hand. It is still Church of Uganda Family TV with me, Carol Tumwine. Now, we are still discussing human rights and, of course, advancing the fight against it. And in studio with me is Isaac Atukunda, Honorary Secretary, Uganda Law Society. Before we went for a break, we were discussing what are some of the human rights and how exactly can one fight for them. Now, my first question, as we get back to the discussion, would be what can somebody do in case their rights are violated? What is the first step taken by a Ugandan out there who has been abused, whose rights have been taken away or violated? In that case, what should they do? What should be the first step that they start with?
Thank you, Carol. As I earlier mentioned, Article 50 of the Constitution of Uganda gives a right to every person who claims that fundamental or freedom guaranteed under the Constitution has been infringed or threatened, a right to apply to a court of competent jurisdiction seeking redress.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And as I also mentioned, we have courts of law. We also have Uganda Human Rights Commission. Of recent, we also have NGOs. I don't know whether you've heard of an umbrella organization called LAPSNet. It brings together different NGOs which are involved in protection of human rights. For example, Uganda Law Society has a legal aid project. We have around 22 clinics all over the country. So people can use these avenues to access courts of law, those who cannot represent themselves. But also we have had cases where people represent themselves. You've seen Mare Mavirizi very often go to court to protect his rights. And we have also had precedent where a court has emphasized the right of an individual person through public interest litigation. A person has a right to access courts of law and address any violation of human rights. Maybe sometimes people say, okay, I went to court, I presented my case and lost it. Maybe judges are corrupt. Maybe the court system doesn't care about us Ugandans. So now, when your rights have been violated, for example, you've been tortured, make sure that number one, you report to the nearest authority, and most specifically report to police. If you have injuries, make sure that you access a hospital and get a medical report. Make sure that as much as possible you try to identify whoever has been involved in this violation, whether it is a police officer, whether it is an individual Ugandan, whether it is a security agent. Try as much as possible to identify this person. These days we have cameras. Make sure that you capture this person. And also when you're going to court, make sure that you prepare your case. Because court decide matters using rules of evidence. That no matter how your story sounds or how good it is, if you do not have evidence and acceptable evidence, you lose. So when your rights have been violated, make sure that you collect sufficient evidence to even enable your lawyer present a good case before court. But of emphasis is your right to access court. And as I earlier stated, that when you go to court, you have a right to a fair hearing. If you feel your matter has not been heard the way it should be heard, you have a right of appeal.
Okay.
Remember, there is also an obligation. I've had instances where courts make decisions and people are shouting and making noise around courts, abusing each other. Legally, that's not how it should be.
Okay.
If you feel you're dissatisfied with the decision, appeal it. Appeal it. I know you have, humans have a right to express their opinions. They have a right to demonstrate. But if you're to take that course, also make sure you're doing it within the confines of the law.
Okay.
So whenever the rights of an individual are violated, the best way is to access courts of law, or to access Uganda Human Rights Commission, to access police, and to access other entities which are involved in protection of human rights. And at this point, I want to thank members of Uganda Law Society who have taken keen interest in protection and fight for human rights. I wouldn't want to mention names here, but some of the names are household names. We have like senior lawyer Ladislas Rwakafuzi. We have had Professor Kabumba Musinje. We have had Counsel Nicholas Opio. We have had Counsel Jude Vyambukama, Counsel Aaron Chiza, our late Justice Kenneth Kakuru. So many lawyers have taken keen interest in this area. Others are offering pro bono to people whose rights have been abused. So, if you're Ugandan out there and your rights have been violated, please kindly access services of a lawyer nearest you. Or if you cannot afford a lawyer, go to police, report this matter, and also have access to courts of law.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the Uganda Law Society surely must have done a lot to protect the human rights, and I would like for you to tell us what Uganda Law Society has done in promotion of these human rights. How has it come in to protect the rights?
Thank you, Carol. Actually, most often people have asked me what Uganda Law Society does in protection and promotion of human rights. You see, because the violations are rampant, people always expect the society to be like an activist. You know, you demonstrate, you be on streets, make noise. But that's not our mandate. Ours is a bit more civil.
Okay.
We engage, we litigate, okay? And where things completely fail, we can also join demonstrations. But as Uganda Law Society, we have done a lot to promote human rights and the rule of law in Uganda. For example, we have annual Pro Bono Day. During the annual Pro Bono Week, our lawyers across the country are involved in offering pro bono services to the public. Pro bono, I mean free services.
Yeah.
Of recent, if you are keen, we are here at railway grounds offering pro bono services and all other high court circuits in Uganda, like in Arua, Soroti, Mbare, Mbarara, Masindi, Kabare. Lawyers were involved in offering pro bono services. We usually have talk shows on radios and TVs where we are spreading the gospel of human rights during the pro bono week. Also, lawyers are mandated to offer pro bono as part of their legal practice. So as Uganda Society, we have been offering pro bono. Actually, the report I have is that in this year, more than 1,147 clients received pro bono services from Uganda Law Society. That's intervention number one. Intervention number two, we have a legal aid project. Thanks to our funders and sponsors. We have 22 clinics across the country. We have projects in Moroto, Kotido, Ruelo, Ruzira, Nabiratuk, Kabera Maido, Amudat, and these clinics have supported more than 86,000 individuals this year alone.
Okay.
So you can imagine, since we started Legal Aid Project, how many clients we have served.
Okay.
So our lawyers are always ready across these clinics to offer legal aid.
Okay.
Then also we have continuing legal education for our own membership, where we interest members, in protection of human rights. Of recent, we have rule of law clubs. We have a rule of law club in Makerere, in Islamic University in Uganda.
Okay.
We have rule of law club in Uganda Christian University. The purpose of rule of law clubs is to encourage the youth
Okay.
to participate in promotion and protection of human rights. Why we picked interest in this specifically is, in most cases, the youth are both the violators and the people whose rights are most often abused.
Yes.
The earlier question you asked me, most people who are now in detention because of human rights are the youth.
Yeah.
So we have started engaging the youth through rule of law clubs.
Okay.
And this year we had a boot camp at Makerere University, which was well attended by university law students. And we are encouraging them to reach out there in communities
Okay.
and engage the communities about rule of law. Then we have trainings and public engagements. Sometimes we are supported by justice law and order sector. And through those trainings and workshops, we have trained security agencies, individuals, and the government on issues relating to rule of law.
Okay.
Recently, if you've been keen, the President Uganda Law Society has been emphatic on radio stations, on TV stations, even during the late Benedicto Chiwanuka Day
Yes.
at the High Court. He brought to the attention of the judiciary the abuses of human rights done by government agencies
Okay.
and security forces. You also heard of when the President Uganda Society issued wrote to National Environmental Management Authority about the requirement to have dustbins
Yes.
in cars. And he was challenging NEMA to show the law under which they were proceeding to force people who own private cars to have trash cans in their cars. Actually, modern cars even have where to push trash.
Yeah.
So, and NEMA, because it wasn't supported by any law, had to backtrack instead of punishing people for that. We have written numerous correspondences to government about abuse of human rights.
Okay.
We have a rule of law journal, which is published quarterly. We usually publish these abuses, and we usually engage stakeholders. We have had engagements with the director, CID, over this. And now, every year, we usually have stakeholder engagements with all security agencies to address issues of human rights. So, as Uganda Society, we've done our part. We are going to continue doing it. Our members out there every day are representing clients whose rights have been abused.
Okay.
Kudos to our members. So, we have done our part. We request Ugandans also to do their part, and also the government and the judiciary, plus, importantly, the parliament, because parliament makes these laws.
Yeah.
They are the leaders. So each one of us should do our role
Their part.
towards this cause of human rights.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have 3 minutes to go, but you can use 2 to tell us about the Rule of Law Week. just to wrap up the conversation.
Thank you, Carol. In fulfillment of our mandate as Uganda Law Society, for the last 14 years, we've been having a Rule of Law week. Now, during this week, we mainly concentrate on spreading the gospel, the message about human rights. We usually have talk shows like this.
Okay.
We usually publish articles in newspapers.
Okay.
We usually have community outreaches through Rule of Law clubs. We usually have a symposium like this week. It's going to be on Friday.
Okay.
And usually during the symposium, we have different speakers discussing areas of interest in human rights. During this week, we encourage everyone out there to take keen interest in matters of human rights. So we set aside this week to spread this gospel, to emphasize the importance of human rights. If I were to borrow from the late President of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, he stated that without observing human rights, there is no respect for a human being. A human being without rights is no human being. But rights, for emphasis, come with obligations. So in as much as the law protects your rights, you must also fulfill your obligation as a human being. Do not pollute the environment. Do not participate in corruption, because corruption, it's you, human beings, who give money to the officers. It's human beings torturing other human beings.
Yes.
It's human beings fighting other human beings. So let us do our obligations as Ugandans. Let us participate in protection of human rights. Let us hold each one of us and our security organs accountable, and let us support Uganda Law Society to fulfill its mandate.
Okay.
I thank you very much, and I thank Family TV for hosting us.
Thank you
and
so
giving
much.
us the opportunity.
Thank you also for giving us the opportunity and being a part of this show. We hope that you will be a part of it next time when we invite you.
We shall gladly attend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a good audience for Issues at Hand this morning. From where we started till now, you can follow the conversation still on our YouTube channel at Church of Uganda Family TV, but also other social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the same name, Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Carol Tumwina. It is a great pleasure having you this morning, but we have come to the end of our show. Till tomorrow, same time, same station. Bye-bye.
Issues at Hand